Welcome back my YouTube channel Old Coin Z Collection. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most interesting and valuable coins in the coin 1972 Washington Quarter, a coin that might just have a surprising value that could leave you speechless. So let's dive in now. The 1972 Washington Quarter is an incredibly popular piece among collectors. The history behind this coin is deeply rooted in the legacy of George Washington, the first president of the United States. But did you know that some of these quarters can fetch a value of over $50,000? Let's explore why first. Let's set the stage with a bit of history. The Washington Quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate George Washington's 200th birthday. This design by John Flanagan became iconic, featuring George Washington's portrait on the obverse front side and a majestic eagle on the reverse back side. Now, by the time the 1972 quarters were struck, the design had been around for 4 decades, but there was still something special about this particular year that makes it stand out. The first thing you need to know about the 1972 Washington Quarter is that it was produced in massive numbers, especially in the Philadelphia and Denver mints. These coins were minted in regular circulation and were part of the typical coinage at the time. But most of these 1972 quarters are worth just their face value, a quarter, which is 25 cents. So, if you're simply looking for a regular 1972 quarter in your pocket change, don't expect to make any big bucks. But that's not where the magic happens. There's a catch with this coin that could make it incredibly valuable, and no, it's not just about the age. Let's talk about the error that makes this coin potentially worth thousands, the famous 1972 double die obverse in 1972. Some quarters were struck with a die that caused a doubling of the date on the obverse side of the coin. This is known as a double die obverse error. When looking closely at the date 1972, you may notice that the digits appear to be doubled or more pronounced. This happened when the coin die was misaligned during the striking process, causing a shift in the design. And here's the kicker: if you're lucky enough to find a well-preserved double die obverse 1972 Washington Quarter, it can be worth anywhere from $500 to over $50,000, depending on its condition. Yes, you heard that right, $50,000. Now, before you get too excited and start digging through your change jar, let's talk about the different grades and how they affect the value. A coin's grade is one of the most important factors when determining its worth. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70. A coin with a grade of good G4 is worn and has very little detail left, while an uncirculated MS70 coin is flawless, with no signs of wear. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin. For example, a 1972 double die obverse in good condition might only fetch around $500 or so, while a coin in mint state, MS65 condition, can easily go $4.10, $000 to $15,000. But the most pristine specimens with a grade MS67 or higher could hit that $50,000 mark, especially if they have that crisp, clear doubling on the date. So, how can you tell if your 1972 quarter is the valuable one? Well, first and foremost, examine the date. The doubling on the 1972 double die obverse is very clear. If you're unsure, compare it with high-quality images of known examples online or consult a professional grader. Another thing to look for is the overall condition of the coin. If the coin is scratched, tarnished, or damaged, the value will be lower. The cleaner and more well-preserved the coin, the higher its potential value. Speaking of preservation, handling your coins carefully is essential. Always use soft cotton gloves when touching your rare coins and store them in a safe, dry place like a coin holder or capsule to protect them from the elements. Now, let's dive deeper into where these coins were minted. The Philadelphia Mint, which produced coins without a mint mark, was responsible for striking millions of these 1972 quarters. The Denver Mint also struck its own batch of 1972 quarters, but the real excitement comes with the proof versions that were created at the San Francisco Mint. So, how do you know if yours is a rare double die obverse? You'll want to closely inspect the 1972 date, particularly the digits 1, 9, and 2. The doubling should be visible with a magnifying glass or microscope. Take your time and check carefully. And now, you might be asking, how do I know what my coin is worth? The easiest way is to consult a professional coin dealer, use an online coin value guide, or get your coin graded by a reputable organization like the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation (NGC) or the Professional Coin Grading Service (PCGS). Grading is the key to unlocking your coin's full value potential, and the higher the grade, the more likely it is that you'll see that incredible price tag of $50,000. Now, before we wrap up, I want to remind you that not every 1972 Washington quarter will be worth a piece of history. The coin 1971 Washington quarter, and believe it or not, this coin can be worth a jaw-dropping $50,700. Yes, you heard that right. This coin, one of the most unassuming quarters out there, has some serious value, and I'm here to tell you exactly why. So, sit back, relax, and let's explore the mystery behind the 1971 Washington quarter. At first glance, the 1971 Washington quarter might just seem like a regular coin you'd find in your pocket. It features the iconic portrait of George Washington, the first president of the United States, which has graced the obverse of this quarter since 1932. But there's so much more to this coin than meets the eye. Let's dive deeper into what makes the 1971 Washington quarter so special. In 1971, the United States was going through some significant changes. The country was in the middle of the post-Vietnam era, dealing with the social and political changes that came with it. It was also the year the U.S. officially stopped using the silver standard for coinage, moving to a copper-nickel blend instead. This shift would influence the value of coins in the years to come. But the 1971 Washington quarter still holds value for a specific reason that we'll get into shortly. What makes the 1971 Washington quarter stand out? Well, not every 1971 quarter is worth $50,700, obviously. But there's a rare, specific variety of this coin that has captured the attention of collectors. This variety is known as the 1971 Washington quarter with a double die obverse, DDO. It's a misprint, where the obverse of the coin shows significant doubling, most notably in the letters of Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date, 1971. But if you look closely at these areas on the coin, you can see that the lettering is duplicated, creating a clear and noticeable doubling effect. This kind of error occurs when the coin is struck more than once in a slightly shifted position. The result is a coin with a design that looks blurry or doubled, and collectors prize these errors for their rarity and unique appearance. Now, here's where things get crazy. A 1971 Washington quarter double die obverse in excellent condition, especially in mint state 65 or higher, can fetch up to $50,700. It all depends on the quality and condition of the coin, as well as its specific details. For a coin to command such a high price, it needs to be in almost perfect condition, free from major wear, scratches, or discoloration. Let's break this down a bit more. Mint state 65 is a grading term used by professional coin graders to describe a coin that is almost flawless, with only minor imperfections. Coins in this grade are highly sought after by collectors and numismatists. The rarer the coin and the better its condition, the higher the value it commands. Now, you might be wondering, how can I tell if my 1971 Washington quarter is one of these valuable double die varieties? It's all about looking at the details. The first place to check is the word Liberty on the obverse. If you see the letters doubled, that's a good indicator that you've got one of these rare coins. The same goes for In God We Trust, where you may see a noticeable shift in the letters. And of course, don't forget to check the date. 1971 might show noticeable doubling. If you spot these characteristics, congratulations. You may have found a coin that could be worth thousands of dollars. But remember, it's always important to get your coin graded by a professional to get an accurate valuation. Coin grading is crucial in determining the value of a rare coin. There are several grading services out there, such as PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, that can provide a detailed evaluation of your coin. They use a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect coin. A coin graded at MS 65 or higher could easily fetch a price close to $50,700. but without professional grading, it's just a guess. While the 1971 Washington Quarter DDO is definitely one of the standout coins of the era, it's not the only Washington quarter that can be worth big money. There are other years, like the 1932 D or S, or even the 1964 proof quarter, that can also fetch impressive sums, depending on their condition and rarity. So, let's say you have a 1971 Washington quarter with a double die, and you've had it professionally graded. What's next? Well, selling your coin is an option, and there are several ways to do it. You could take it to a reputable auction house, sell it online through platforms like eBay, or contact a local coin dealer. Just make sure you do your research and work with a trusted professional to get the best price for your valuable coin. And that's a wrap on today's deep dive into the 1971 Washington Quarter with a potential value of $50,700. Can you believe so? There you have it. The 1971 Washington Quarter coin, a piece of history. Today's episode is one you won't want to miss. We're diving deep into one of the most well-known coins in American numismatics, the 1991 Washington Quarter. But wait, there's more to this coin than meets the eye. We'll explore its value, history, significance, and how it could be worth millions in certain cases. Stick around as we take a deep dive into the fascinating world of the 1991 Washington Quarter. First off, let's take a closer look at the 1991 Washington Quarter itself. The 1991 Quarter was minted at the Philadelphia Mint, hence the P Mint mark. It's a standard circulating coin from the United States Mint, featuring George Washington's portrait on the obverse and an eagle with outstretched wings on the reverse. This coin is part of the iconic Washington Quarter series that's been in circulation since 1932. But here's the catch. This particular coin, while generally common in circulation, has caught the eye of collectors due to certain unique factors. Before we talk about the value of the 1991 Washington Quarter, it's important to understand its place in history. The Washington Quarter was first introduced in 1932 to honor the first president of the United States, George Washington, on the bicentennial of his birth. Designed by John Flanagan, this iconic coin was a tribute to Washington's leadership during the Revolutionary War and his presidency. Over the years, the design has remained relatively the same, with only minor updates and changes. In 1991, the U.S. Mint produced around 1.2 billion Washington Quarters, making it a relatively high mintage coin. But even with such a large production number, certain coins stand out among the masses, which is where the value comes into play. So, why might a 1991 Washington Quarter be worth more than its face value of 25 cents? Let's break down the factors that contribute to the value of a coin. The value of a coin can depend on various aspects, including its condition, rarity, errors, and demand within the numismatic market. Point 1. Condition. Grade. The most significant factor that determines a coin's value is its condition, or grade. A well-preserved coin in uncirculated condition, graded MS 65 or higher, will naturally fetch a higher price. On the other hand, coins with heavy wear and tear won't have much more value than their face value. Regardless of the year or mint mark. Point 2. Rarity and low mintage. While the 1991 Washington Quarter had a high mintage, certain rare varieties could be worth more. The rarity of specific issues, whether due to minting errors or limited production, plays a crucial role in determining value. Point 3. Mint errors. Minting errors, such as double strikes, off-center strikes, or die cracks, can make a coin extremely valuable. For the 1991 Washington Quarter, if there are any such errors, these could send the value skyrocketing. Errors are always in high demand among collectors looking for unique and interesting pieces. Now, let's talk about the unique varieties and potential rare finds among the 1991 Washington Quarters. While the 1991 Quarters themselves aren't rare, there have been reports of certain varieties and errors that can increase their worth. Show close-up of a potential error coin like a double die or off-center strike. 1. Double die obverse, DDO. A double die obverse is one of the most sought-after errors among coin collectors. It happens when a coin is struck twice by the die, resulting in a noticeable doubling effect on the letters or details on the coin's obverse side. If you're lucky enough to find a 1991p Washington quarter with a double die obverse, it could fetch a significant premium. Point 2. Off-center strikes. Another error that collectors pay a premium for is an off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not properly aligned during the minting process, resulting in part of the design being cut off. These can be quite rare, and if you come across one, you could have a very valuable coin in your hands. Now, how can you tell if you have a valuable 1991p Washington quarter? Let's go over some tips on how to spot a potential gem. Point 1. Examine the condition. Check the overall wear and tear. If the coin looks pristine and uncirculated, it's worth getting it graded by a professional. Point 2. Look for mint errors. Take a magnifying glass and carefully inspect the coin for any doubling or misalignment. A professional coin dealer or numismatist can help confirm your findings. Point 3. Consult a professional. If you're unsure about your coin's value, don't hesitate to take it to a certified coin grading service or a reputable dealer. They can help you determine if it's a rare, valuable find. Now, let's get to the million-dollar question. What is the value of the 1991p Washington quarter? For a standard circulated 1991p Washington quarter, the value is generally around its face value, 25 cents to $1, depending on its condition. However, for coins in pristine, uncirculated condition, or those with rare mint errors, the value can increase dramatically. In some cases, especially with rare varieties or mint errors, the value can range from $50 to $1,000 or more. But here's where it gets interesting. If you come across a 1991p Washington quarter with an extremely rare error, or if it's part of a special collection, it could potentially reach higher prices. Rare finds like these have sold for thousands of dollars at auctions, and yes, even up to $2 million. Though these cases are extremely rare. So, there you have it. The 1991p Washington quarter may seem like a common coin at first glance, but its value can truly skyrocket depending on the condition and any rare mint errors. If you happen to come across a mint error or an uncirculated piece in your collection, you might just have a valuable coin worth far more than you ever imagined. Always keep an eye out for those rare finds, and never underestimate the value of a well-preserved piece of history. Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating quarters of the 20th century, the coin 1970 Washington quarter, which can be worth a whopping $45,700. Yes, you heard that right. Stick around because we'll break down everything you need to know about this coin, from its history to its current market value. Let's get started. First, let's take a closer look at the Washington quarter. This coin features a portrait of George Washington, the first president of the United States, which was designed by John Flanagan. You'll find his face on the obverse, facing left with the inscription Liberty above and In God We Trust below. It also includes the year 1970, marking the year of minting. On the reverse side, you'll see a majestic eagle in flight, holding an olive branch and arrows. Above, it says United States of America, and below, E Pluribus Unum. The quarter is composed of a copper-nickel clad, weighing in at 5.67 grams and measuring 24.3 millimeters in diameter. Now, let's talk about what makes the 1970 Washington quarter so special. Normally, you'd expect a typical 1970 quarter to be worth just a little over its face value of 25 cents. But, and this is crucial, there's a rare variety of this coin, the 1970 S-proof quarter, that is worth far more, and it can fetch prices up to $45,700 in exceptional condition. That's right. A coin that could have sat in someone's pocket for decades could now be worth a small fortune. But before you rush to check your change jar, let's go over how you can identify whether your 1970 quarter could be one of these rare, high-value coins. So, what makes the 1970 S-proof quarter so valuable? It all comes down to the minting process. In 1970, there was a special batch of quarters produced at the San Francisco Mint, and these were proof coins, S-proof coins are made using a special process where the die is polished and the coin is struck multiple times to produce a sharp, mirror-like finish. Now, here's the key. These coins were not meant for circulation. They were primarily sold to collectors and proof sets. A typical circulating 1970 Washington quarter will have a more standard, less refined appearance. But if you have a 1970 coin with an S mint mark and it's in pristine condition, it could be the proof version we're talking about. Let's break this down further. Look for these things. 1. Mint mark. The S mint mark is located just under George Washington's neck on the obverse side. 2. Condition. Proof coins are usually graded on a scale from PR 60 low to PR 70 perfect. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin. Now, you might be wondering, how do I know if my coin is in good enough condition to fetch a high price? That's where coin grading comes in. Coins are graded on their condition, and this plays a huge role in their market value. For instance, a 1970 S-proof quarter with a grade of PR 69 or PR 70 can easily reach up to $45,700 at auction, while one with a lower grade may still fetch a significant amount, but not quite as much. Here's the grading scale. PR 60, coin with noticeable imperfections, a low grade. PR 65, shows slight signs of wear, but still in good condition. PR 70, a flawless coin, almost perfect, and typically worth the most. So, if you happen to have a 1970 S-proof quarter in PR 70 condition, you might just be sitting on a treasure chest. Coins of this grade are not easy to come by, but they're out there. Let's take a look at some real-world examples. Recently, a 1970 S-proof quarter in perfect PR 70 condition was sold at auction for an eye-popping $45,700. That's no small sum. The auction world for coins is extremely competitive, and rare coins like this can command impressive prices due to their desirability among collectors. Another example is a 1970 S-proof quarter that fetched $35,000 in a major auction last year. Even coins in PR 68 or PR 69 condition can go for a few $1,000s, but the ones with flawless finishes are where the big money is at. So, where can you find a 1970 S-proof quarter? These coins are primarily available through specialized coin dealers, auctions, or online platforms like eBay. But keep in mind, there are a lot of counterfeit coins out there, so it's essential to buy from trusted sources. Make sure to have your coin professionally graded by a reputable service like the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation (NGC) or the Professional Coin Grading Service (PCGS). If you think you've got a gem on your hands, that's it for today's dive into the value of the 1970 Washington quarter piece of history. We're diving into a coin that might just blow your mind. This is the 1969 Washington quarter, a coin that, despite being produced in massive quantities, has an extremely rare and valuable version worth up to a staggering $1 million. The Washington quarter, first minted in 1932, has been a staple of American currency for decades. But today, we're focusing on the 1969 version. This quarter was minted during a pivotal time in American history, the late 60s, a decade of change, unrest, and growth. In 1969, over 250 million quarters were struck, but most of these were produced in a typical way. Nothing particularly special about them. So, how did one of these seemingly ordinary coins end up worth a jaw-dropping $4 million? Well, it all comes down to a rare mistake. Let's talk about the error that makes this coin worth millions. You see, a few 1969 quarters were mistakenly struck with a double die obverse, meaning the design on the front of the coin was imprinted twice. The result? A blurry, distorted image of George Washington's face and the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." Check out the doubled features, the extra layer of Washington's hairline, and the thickening of the lettering. This error happened due to a malfunction in the minting process. The die used to strike the coin got misaligned, resulting in this double impression. While this error may sound like something that would occur on just a few coins, it actually created one of the most valuable errors in modern coinage. So, how do you identify a double die error? Great question. The first thing to check is the word "Liberty." On a standard 1969 quarter, the lettering should be sharp and clear. But on a double die error, You'll see that the letters are doubled and sometimes look blurry or ghosted. Look closely at Washington's face too. You'll notice that parts of his hairline will appear doubled or distorted. The most visible doubling is often found around the R in Liberty and the T in Trust. Keep in mind that this error is very rare. Most of the double die coins from 1969 are much less obvious, so it's crucial to examine your coin carefully under good lighting. So why is this 1969 double die Washington quarter worth $4 million? The rarity of the coin plays a huge role. Out of the billions of coins minted in 1969, only a handful of these double die quarters made it into circulation. In fact, it's believed that only a few dozen were ever released into the wild. That's why, when one of them shows up on the market, collectors and investors will pay top dollar to get their hands on it. The most famous 1969 double die quarter, which sold for nearly $4 million, was discovered by a lucky collector who found it in a roll of regular quarters. This goes to show that sometimes, treasures are hidden in the most unexpected places. Now, I know what you're all thinking. How can I find one of these priceless quarters? Well, it's not easy, but it's definitely worth a try. The key is to carefully inspect your quarters from 1969, especially those that seem worn or have unusual characteristics. Start by checking your local coin shops, or even roll hunting, where you buy rolls of quarters and inspect each one for errors. Keep in mind that most 1969 quarters will look normal, but with a trained eye, you can spot the ones that are truly special. Finding a 1969 double die Washington quarter isn't easy, but if you're a dedicated coin collector, it's worth the effort. Imagine discovering a coin worth millions right in your own collection or while digging through a roll at the bank. It's a thrilling feeling that every coin collector in history.
Today, we've got something truly special in store. Have you ever heard of the coin 1968 Washington quarter valued at an incredible $4 million? Well, it's not a rumor. It's a fascinating part of numismatic history. In this video, I'll take you through the story, the details, and the reasons why this coin has such an astronomical value. Stay tuned, because you won't want to miss the full journey. Let's start with the basics. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to honor George Washington's 200th birthday. Over the decades, this iconic coin has undergone a few design changes, but it remains one of the most recognized in the United States. The 1968 Washington quarter, however, is particularly interesting due to several factors that set it apart from other years. The 1968 Washington quarter is part of the standard circulating quarters from that era. On the obverse, we see the famous portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. The reverse shows an eagle in flight, designed by the renowned artist John R. Sinek. Now, let's break down the value. The 1968 Washington quarter is usually worth around 25 cents in average circulated condition. But what about that $4 million price tag? What makes this particular coin so valuable? The 1968 Washington quarter's $4 million value isn't a result of just any regular coin. It's tied to a very rare error coin that was minted in that year. A small number of Washington quarters were accidentally struck with the wrong metal composition during the production process. Normally, quarters are made of a mix of copper and nickel, but a few were mistakenly produced with a high silver content, something that didn't happen in 1968, but did occur with coins struck in earlier years. These silver quarters are extremely rare, making them a highly sought-after collector's item. Imagine a coin meant to be worth only 25 cents being mistakenly made of silver, a metal more valuable than copper and nickel. The mistake was only discovered after several years when collectors noticed the anomaly, and it turned into one of the rarest error coins in American numismatic history. How can you identify the 1968 Washington quarter with a $4 million price tag from regular ones? Well, there are a few things you need to know. First off, these silver versions of the 1968 quarter are rare, but they do exist. You want to look for certain clues. Here's the first tip. Use a magnet. Regular quarters won't stick to a magnet, but the silver variant will. That's because silver is not magnetic, but certain metallic elements used in the error coins can be. It's one way to check the composition of the coin. Another way to check is to look closely at the coin's weight. A typical 1968 quarter weighs about 5.67 grams, but the silver era quarters will weigh slightly more, around 6.25 grams. Now, let's talk about the factors that influence this coin's value. While the silver era version is the most significant factor, the coin's condition plays a huge role in determining its final price. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being perfect. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin. Coins in mint state or near mint condition will fetch a much higher price than coins that show significant wear. So, if you happen to find one of these rare silver 1968 quarters in pristine condition, you might be looking at a true treasure. So, what does this mean for you, the collector? Well, even if you don't have a $4 million 1968 quarter lying around this history today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating and valuable pieces in American coinage, the Washington quarter from 1966. You might not expect a coin from the coin 1960s to fetch a jaw-dropping $2 million. But as we peel back the layers of history, rarity, and craftsmanship, you'll understand exactly how this piece came to hold such a staggering value. First, let's travel back in time to understand the roots of the Washington quarter. This coin was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Designed by John Flanagan, this quarter depicted Washington's profile on the obverse and a majestic eagle on the reverse. It's a coin rich in history, representing the founding of our country. Now, fast forward to 1966. By this time, the design had been unchanged for over 3 decades. The Washington quarter had become a familiar sight in the hands of Americans, and most of us probably had seen one without thinking twice. But as we'll soon learn, not all 1966 quarters are created equal. In 1966, the U.S. Mint produced more than 1 billion Washington quarters, meaning most of these coins are quite common. But the magic of rare coins lies in the small differences. In some cases, a minting error or the coin's unique condition can drastically raise its value. And that's where the story of the $2 million Washington quarter comes into play. Imagine walking through your local coin shop, spotting a 1966 Washington quarter, and realizing that what looks like a regular coin could actually be worth millions. But why? Well, there's a particular variety of this coin that stands apart from the rest. The 1966 Washington quarter with a minting error, often referred to as the double die error. This rare coin features a striking anomaly in the design that makes the image of Washington appear doubled. It's an error that occurred during the minting process when the die was misaligned, leaving behind a coin with 2 overlapping images. This type of error is extremely rare. Only a handful of these double-die 1966 Washington quarters have been discovered, making them highly coveted by collectors. When one of these elusive coins sold for $2 million, it turned heads across the numismatic world. But why such an astronomical price? Another key factor in determining the value of this coin is its condition. In the world of numismatics, we measure coin condition using a grading scale from good to mint state. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin. A double-die 1966 Washington quarter in pristine condition can be worth far more than one that's been worn down over time. The coin that sold for $2 million was graded as proof 70, which is the highest possible grade. This means the coin was essentially flawless, with no visible imperfections. The combination of rarity and impeccable condition is what elevated this particular quarter to such a high value. But finding one of these coins is like searching for a needle in a haystack. So, what does this mean for you as a coin collector? Well, there's always the potential of finding a rare gem in your pocket change, but it's important to know what to look for. When you're inspecting Washington quarters from 1966, here's what to check for. 1. Look for the distinctive double die error, particularly around the date and Washington's portrait. 2. Examine the condition of the coin. Coins with minimal wear are far more valuable. 3. Pay attention to any unique features or abnormalities in the coin's design. 4. If you have any doubts, always take your coin to a professional grader for verification. Now, while the 1966 double die quarter is certainly one of the most famous, it's not the only valuable Washington quarter out there. Over the years, there have been other rare quarters with minting errors or limited production that are worth a pretty penny. For example, the 1932D and 1932 S Washington quarters are also highly sought after due to their limited mintage. And let's not forget about the 1976 bicentennial quarters, which are still interesting for their historical significance. So, what's the bottom line? A 1966 Washington quarter could be worth in history. The coin Washington quarter from 1967. Now, you might be thinking, 1967? That's not even a particularly old coin. But trust me, this is no ordinary quarter. Despite it being just a few decades old, this coin has some fascinating qualities that have led it to be valued in the millions. Yep, you heard that right. This 1967 Washington quarter has been known to fetch up to $3 million at auctions. Stick around to learn how a simple quarter from 1967 can be worth so much before we dive into the specifics of this 1967 coin. Let's quickly look at the history of the Washington quarter itself. First introduced in 1932, the Washington quarter was created to commemorate George Washington's 200th birthday. A remarkable figure in American history, Washington's image was selected for the coin's obverse side, and it's been a staple of American coinage ever since. From 1932 to today, the Washington quarter has seen several changes in design, but what makes the 1967 edition interesting is its place during a unique moment in U.S. coinage history, just after the U.S. had started moving away from silverback coins. All right, let's take a closer look at the 1967 Washington quarter. It features the iconic image of George Washington on the front, designed by John Flanagan. On the reverse side, we see a majestic eagle, symbolizing strength and freedom. But here's the thing. 1967 was the last year the U.S. Mint issued coins with 90% silver content in their quarters. Starting in 1965, the government shifted to clad coins, which were primarily copper and nickel, and the 1967 Washington quarter is one of the final remnants of that silver era. And this silver content is what makes the coin so valuable. Now, the reason that the 1967 Washington quarter can be worth $3 million isn't because every coin from that year is valuable. Far from it. You see, while most 1967 Washington quarters are worth just a few dollars, mainly based on their silver content, some rare ones have unique characteristics that make them extraordinarily valuable. One of the most important factors that influence the coin's value is its condition. The higher the grade, the higher the value. A graded MS 67 or higher could be worth thousands of dollars. But if you're wondering how this coin could possibly reach $3 million, that's where the mystery of error coins comes in. Now, let's get to the part that really excites collectors. Errors. Some of these 1967 quarters have unusual minting errors, and some of these errors are extremely rare. Imagine this. A Washington quarter with a double die error or an incorrect mint mark. These coins are worth a fortune. For example, a rare 1967 Washington quarter with a double die on the reverse side can send collectors into a frenzy. These unique errors happen when the coin is struck by the die more than once, causing certain features to appear doubled or out of place. That simple mistake can turn a quarter into a priceless treasure. Okay. Now that you're excited about the potential of finding a $3 million coin in your collection, let's talk about how to identify these rare 1967 quarters. First, always check the mint mark. You'll find it under the eagle on the reverse side. A coin with a mint mark that doesn't belong could be a sign of an error. Next, inspect the coin for double dies or other unusual features. You want to look for extra details that shouldn't be there, like additional letters or numbers, and always make sure to get your coins graded by a professional. This helps you determine their value and ensures that you're not holding on to something that's only worth a few bucks. Coins that are graded higher, like MS65 or MS67, could be the ones that bring in big bucks that SO. Let's say you found a 1967 Washington quarter that could be worth big money. What's next? Well, you have a few options. You can take it to a local coin dealer, but for high-value coins, I'd recommend reaching out to reputable auction houses like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers, where collectors around the world might be bidding for your treasure. In conclusion, while not every 1967 Washington quarter is worth millions, there's still a real chance that the next time you pick up a quarter from your collection, you could be holding on to a small fortune. Whether it's because of the silver content, the minting errors, or simply its condition, this little coin has big potential. So keep your eyes peeled, your magnifier ready, and don't forget to subscribe my YouTube channel Old Coin Z Collection for more amazing stories and coin hunting tips. Until next time, happy collecting.